am a singer. I have been since I was 3 years old, singing in my room to a very appreciative audience of stuffed animals. I can remember the first time that I ever sang in front of a live audience. My mom made me sing for my kindergarten class. I'm not your superwoman. I'm not the kind of girl that you can let down and think that everything's okay. Boy, I am only human. Now imagine a 4-year-old singing this 1988 Karen White song. I didn't even know what I was singing about, but what I did know was that I loved to sing, and I was pretty good at it. Growing up in a household that loved music and encouraged me to pursue it as my passion in life was a rare gift. The challenge was that I didn't have parents that had the resources to help foster and develop this gift. And so that meant there was no money for music lessons, no money for dance classes. They didn't understand how to access the resources that could help me. They didn't seek out teachers or community that would help me expand my artistic horizons beyond 1980s R&B. The world of fine arts was foreign to them, and so at no fault of theirs, I was alone in my growing obsession. The first time I ever visited a museum, I was 8 years old. It was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, also known as the Met. And I was absolutely blown away. I loved walking past things like European furniture and wondering if people could truly be comfortable sitting on those uptight couches. I was so enamored that I wanted to bring my family back and make the Met a part of my everyday life. But my family didn't go to museums. My parents didn't talk about the newest exhibits or pop-up art shows or even use words like avant-garde. And so lucky for me, the Met had a program called Pay What You Wish. And this meant that I, an 8-year-old totally in love with being out of my element, could become a member. And I could decide if I wanted the arts to become a part of my identity. Inspiring moments like these and searching for ways to expand my world, I went on to pursue a career in the arts and work in the museum field. And in March of 2019, I was offered the position of Director of Education and Public Programs for this amazing facility that we're gathered at this evening, the National Museum of African American Music, also known as NAMAM. And what really attracted me to NAMAM was a program called Museum Without Walls. And it immediately made me think of the Met's Pay What You Wish program and how that introduced me to the world of museums. And that meant that NAMAM was going into the communities with programs well in advance of them even having a physical museum that you could visit. And they were opening up a whole new world for children like me. And so I said, Nashville, here I come. I knew that I wanted to be a part of this place so badly because I know the power of breaking down barriers. And so to summarize, Museum Without Walls takes programs and events that NAMAM has or would have directly into the communities. We would go into schools and community centers or even churches, and we would facilitate educational programming. We would showcase artifacts. We would present guest speakers. And we did this for 2 reasons. The first was to show funders how and why we were important to the community. And the second was to make sure that we had that connection with the Nashville and surrounding communities well in advance of us opening so that when we did open, they knew that there was a place that they could come to and visit. Now, these are very practical motivations, but what it was able to do was something so much more profound. By adopting a practice of choosing to do the unconventional, we brought the unconventional into the community. We said what was easy and familiar isn't enough. And suddenly, the foreign, maybe intimidating, became the new reality for us and our audience. Now, Museums Without Walls can take on many different forms. They can bring programs into schools and communities. It can help to eliminate some of the financial barriers for admissions to museums. It can also help with transportation for those who don't have access. But most importantly, for kids like me, to whom art and museums are a foreign concept, it surrounds them with all of the richness that life and culture has to offer. By sharing important and valuable things, they themselves begin to see themselves as important and valuable. And it tells them that the passion that's growing inside of them has a place in the outside world. I wholeheartedly believe in the mantra that if the child cannot see it, they cannot be it. And when we introduce children to the unfamiliar, very powerful and unexpected changes can happen. They start to see their world differently. And then they see themselves in the world differently. I have seen children who were once afraid to speak out in public, complete introverts, open up over the course of this program and not become just speakers, but messengers. And Museums Without Walls don't just change communities. The act of looking beyond our limitations to think creatively allowed us to change as an institution. And so at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, NAMAM leaned into this identity of being a wall-breaking force. We took 2 weeks to pause, review our programming, and re-envision what that outreach looked like from a virtual and digital delivery format. And so on April 1st, 2020, we launched our Museum Without Walls virtual programming. And by making little changes to downloadable lessons and shortening our online sessions, adding more engagement with our videos and speaking with industry experts, we were able to expand our reach from just a little over 2,900 people with our in-person programs that year to well over 350,000 people to date. And now that we are open and fully operational, our community engagement does not end. We are committed to this Museum Without Walls model through virtual and hybrid programs and events moving forward because we've seen the impact. We know the importance and we're preparing for our future. When I walked into the Met all those years ago, I walked in as a stranger. And my relationship to the future, the things that I saw, and the way that visit made me feel was uncertain. But when I walked out, and I was given the opportunity to give what I had because someone met me where I was, I walked out with a new destiny. I deeply believe in what we do at this museum and my higher calling to serve the community. And it is my hope that museums across the country and the world do the same. Thank you.